My name is Colin Barrows with Cactus to Cloud Institute, and I'm one of the um, instructors and mostly kind of the person who's going to be doing a lot of the administrative stuff for the Climate Stewards course. If you've taken California Naturalist with us, you're pretty familiar with how that will run. Um, and I'm joined by Katie Barrows, who will be the main kind of head instructor for the course. I'll let her introduce herself in a minute, but just kind of we'll look at some slides here as I share my screen about the Desert Sands and Sky Islands Climate Stewards course. So folks may be familiar with the California Naturalist course, which is the way we run it is under called Desert Sands and Sky Islands as well. Both of these courses are under UC Environmental Stewards. In many ways very similar, but also different courses with different subjects and different requirements. So we're going to go into that today. Um, Starting off, this is a group photo of the first group of California naturalists who got to take the course in the Coachella Valley. And I chose this California naturalist photo because the first group of climate stewards folks who got to take the course took the course in 2020, and it was during the pandemic, and we were totally online, and we don't really have a good group photo because of that. Everybody was just on Zoom, and those screenshots of boxes on a screen don't really do it for me personally. Um, but in addition to being involved in kind of helping to coordinate both California Naturals and Climate Stewards, and being an instructor for both, I'm also was in the first class for both of these as they were offered in the desert. That's me in the background, with a lot less gray hair, a lot less gray beard at least. Um, and so I really see them as being really both fun, enjoyable, but also important and informational classes that, made a big difference for me. Um, and I hope that they'll make a big difference for you too if you end up taking the class. Just a little bit about Cactus to Cloud Institute. We're a nonprofit based in the Coachella Valley. Our focus is on education and advocacy around climate stewardship, climate resilience, um, and the natural history of the desert, especially thinking about how we can be better stewards of our environment and be more inclusive as we go about that inclusiveness. One of our big kind of values as an organization is in collaboration. So that's kind of what this slide is about is, we're a very small team. I'm currently actually the only staff member. I will have another staff member next week when she comes back from family leave, but for now, I'm the only staff member. Um, and so we really find success and find are able to achieve what we do through partnership and community and collaboration. So we're part of all these groups, and especially in the context of this class or in this presentation, the UC partners with the UC Environmental Stewards program, which is part of the University of California Agriculture and Natural Resources program. And the way that the environmental stewards program work, I think, is really, I'm gonna add more people from the waiting room. The way that the environmental stewards program works, I think, is a really powerful model, and one of the reasons why we're kind of committed to it and work hard on these programs is that there's a California Naturalist statewide program, University of California statewide, and a Climate Stewards statewide program where there's a sort of a set curriculum developed by the University of California that covers the different kind of topics to be covered and sets a standard for the level of accuracy and that kind of University of California seal of approval that you'll see come with that. But they offer these programs in what they call a co-design or a cooperative design um, model, which means that the UC University of California is not offering any actual classes. They're partnering with groups like Cactus to Cloud all throughout the state to adapt this sort of broad curriculum down to the specific local areas where the classes are offered. And so it really gives us a really great opportunity to not just talk about, you know, natural history or climate stewardship throughout California, but also in the Coachella Valley and the California deserts and surrounding areas. Um, and the other part of that co-design process, which I find really valuable, is it doesn't stop with just us talking to the University of California. It also goes down to you, the students. Um, we change the class based on the feedback of the students every year. We get a little bit better every year. So hopefully, if you're taking the class this year, you'll be getting the best version of this class that's ever been offered.
Mhm.
Uh, so no pressure. With that, oh, and then I'll just briefly put up this mission and vision for the Climate Stewards program. Um, I think as we'll kind of get into with the rest of the presentation, the course is a little bit about sort of the science of climate change, um, but we don't really take you don't need to be a physicist or a chemist or a ecologist, biologist, or anything like that to understand the sort of level that we'll get into, because the real heart of the course is more about communication, engaging with solutions, and like how do we get from the science, which we kind of already know, not kind of, we really already know, right? And have known for long enough for us to do something about it and turn that into action. That's through communication and local solutions, ecosystem resilience, and all that kind of stuff. So with that, I'm going to turn the presentation over to the um, lead instructor for the course, which I didn't mention before, but we also are related. She's my mom. So this is Katie Barrows from now on.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to have you join us. I'll just give you a brief introduction about myself, Katie Barrows. My husband and I, Dr. Cameron Barrows, have lived in the valley for over 40 years. We love the desert. I worked for many years for various organizations, including the Nature Conservancy, the Coachella Valley Mountains Conservancy. In its earliest days, I was one of the first staff members for the Mountains Conservancy, and then finished my career before I retired about 5 years ago with the Coachella Valley Association of Governments, where I was the director of environmental resources and sustainability, working on a lot of different projects, including climate related issues, conservation, habitat conservation, and energy efficiency, and a lot of different environmental issues for all the cities and the county and a large group of organizations that are involved with CVAG in the Coachella Valley. I've been retired for a number of years and actually have been teaching this climate stewards class, as I mentioned briefly. This is it started in 2020, as Colin mentioned, with Dr. Barrows teaching the course online during the pandemic. In 2023 and 2024, Tamara Hedges and I took over the course. Tamara wasn't able to join us this morning, but she will also be one of the co-instructors. And some of you may know Tamara. She was formerly the executive director at UCR Palm Desert. She's now very active with the Desert Wildlife Center and Palm Springs Animal Camp, excuse me, the Palm Springs Animal Shelter. And Tamara is, really both she and Dr. Barrows and Colin and others were involved in getting this whole program off the ground with the California Naturalists and the Climate Stewards. So we're really excited to have it continue in partnership with CactusToCloud and UC Ag and Natural Resources. So we just want to give you a little introduction to the course. And I guess this one seems particularly fitting at this time of year. The weather doesn't seem like it was in the 40 years I've lived here, when we used to have chilling frosts that killed trees in the valley. We are, of course, seeing much hotter temperatures and much longer summers. Next slide. And as Colin mentioned, we do spend some time, we'll spend a little bit of time this morning just kind of talking about climate change in a general sense, but a real focus of this course is more of an action-oriented, inspiring you to help to communicate more about climate change, and taking a look at what are the things that we can do, both as individuals and as a community, and with the emphasis on community. We do have some ongoing programs following up this course that I'll talk about, but we really are encouraging folks not only to learn about what's going on with climate issues and climate resilience, but to become more of an active participant in the community. Next slide. So this will be one of the few slides you'll see for the course, throughout the course, if you decide to take it. But basically, we are dealing with climate change and the impacts of greenhouse gas emissions that have aggravated what is an incredibly important aspect of our life on Earth, which is the greenhouse effect. And most of you probably are aware that we are protected by this kind of blanket of gases, including carbon dioxide, which create a greenhouse effect. And over the many, many years on Earth, has created a situation where, because heat is radiated from the Earth's surface and then trapped by that greenhouse layer, we have a more moderate temperature that doesn't fluctuate wildly in terms of the outside atmosphere. Of course, what we've seen in the last 50 years and more is an increasing impact of greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, methane, and others, that has now basically sort of thickened, if you will, that greenhouse layer. And so more and more of the heat is being trapped in our atmosphere as opposed to being allowed to escape into space. We are unfortunately facing this significant challenge, not just in our community, but throughout planet Earth and beyond. Next slide, please. So we don't want you to get too worried when you start to see these graphs. As Colin mentioned, you don't have to be a physicist or even have taken any chemistry or physics, but we just will, at one point during the course, we will spend some time at one session getting into the science of climate change, and the very solid data that indicates that the increase in carbon dioxide has been occurring over the last more than 50 years. You can see this current level, which is reaching levels that are even higher than has been predicted. Next slide, please. And this one kind of takes it to what that looks like at home in terms of, as we see the increase in carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases, we're seeing increases in temperature. This is for the Riverside area. The major shift, if you will, the most prominent, starts in maybe the 1970s, 1980s. And one of the things that I think is really prominent about climate change is that we're seeing not only much hotter daytime temperatures, but much warmer nighttime temperatures, which has some of the more challenging effects that climate change is causing. Next slide. So we really want to take a look at this in terms of what does this mean to our local communities in the desert. And for those of you who may not be local to the desert, we want to hear about what's going on in your neighborhood. But we have been seeing, and actually a study done by the Tourism Bureau some years ago identified the significant impacts of climate change in terms of our tourism industry. As we see hotter temperatures, Coachella this year, I think they're kind of lucky they got really nice weather. The Living Desert, which of course operates all year round, but these the shorter season, as we get hotter temperatures during May and September, and heat continues into the fall months, will have an impact, a serious impact on our tourism economy. Next slide. And I think the other aspect of this, while there is an awful lot we could talk about in climate change and with regard to climate stewardship, we aren't going to be focusing as much on that science side of it in terms of the physics and chemistry and the climate science. We want you to have a basic grounding in that, but we really want to look at what is the impact on people as a community. And even though mosquitoes are not my favorite, they are part of the so-called wildlife population, if you want to call it that. But we're certainly seeing these changes, and I think they're starting to affect all of us more personally. I know for me, I'm a mosquito magnet, and we didn't used to have mosquitoes in the desert. really to speak of, and now they're much more common. And something that that has to do with, in fact, is probably in part because of our warmer nighttime temperatures. We're not getting the cold chills that would have made it more difficult for mosquitoes to survive here. We also are very much focused on, especially I know a number of you are coming out of the California Naturalist class, on the impacts of climate on our natural communities and also the benefits of natural communities in terms of resilience. Next slide. We will spend some time, we have a really great presentation that we'll have during the course on some of the aspects with regard to environmental justice, looking at what are the effects of climate change across the Coachella Valley and desert region with regard to different communities. In the East Valley, we find obviously there are differences in terms of the effects of these changes for lower income people who may not have solid air conditioning or access to water as well. And really, what are some of the issues that we need to deal with as a community in terms of ensuring that everybody has the ability to essentially become resilient to the impacts of climate change. So we have some really good discussions, and we'll be talking about that as we take some of our field trips as well. Next slide. So another aspect of this, this is actually one of the elements of the course is a series of study units through a program called Canvas that will familiarize you with if you decide to take the course. It's a really great opportunity to learn a lot and kind of dive into topics that you're more interested in. But we really want to help you to become not just someone who has an understanding of climate change, but have the ability to talk to other people about what's going on with climate. And this is one of the more interesting resources out of the Yale, these are called Yale Climate Opinion Maps. And every couple of years, Yale does this analysis looking at people's attitudes about climate change. It's a really cool tool. This is a static version, but this is just taking a look at the estimate of adults who think that global warming is happening on a national basis. This is state by state. And you can see the color range of 50% would be somewhere in the yellow to starting to trend a little bit blue. About 69% on a global, on a nationwide basis. In California, probably closer to 75 or 80, as you can see by the color. And you can use this tool actually to go in and look at your own, like it does it by county as well, or even congressional district, so you can get a much closer view. Next slide. So about 70% of people think that global warming is happening, and about 70% of people nationwide think that it will harm plants and animals to a moderate or great extent. Next slide. And about the same number, 68, 70%, also think that it will harm future generations in a moderate or great extent. Next slide. But interestingly, only about 44%, and I'll note that I updated these slides from the last Yale study, which was in 2020, from 2021 data, and this percentage actually gone down a couple points. But for people who actually think climate change will harm them personally, much lower, less than 50%. You can see, of course, California and New York, a couple of states where that's a little bit higher. But nevertheless, it's really one of the challenges. And I'm kind of wondering after this year if that number is going to change significantly. But we're going to spend some time in the course just talking about, what are the attitudes about climate change? How do I talk to my neighbors who may not either understand it or may have a whole different attitude about how real climate change is? Next slide. So this is kind of some of the guiding principles. As Colin mentioned, this course is actually initiated by the University of California out of their, what we call the mothership at UC Davis. There are some guiding principles that this course is founded on, which it is very much like the California Naturalist course, grounded in science and interdisciplinary science. This course, I think, focuses much more on sort of the emotional aspect and the element of, the human aspect. Obviously, talking about climate change can be very depressing. And we really want to focus on not only some of those impacts to more sensitive communities, more underserved communities, but also to highlight ways in which we can build community around concerns about climate and the interest in trying to do something to make things better. So there's participation in community science is very much encouraged, and we really want to encourage those who take the course to continue on to participate together in building that community. Next slide. So this is just some of the key themes that we'll cover in the course, having to do really focused, of course, on not just ecosystem resilience, but resilience in the community and what kinds of things are happening locally to build climate resilience, or maybe aren't happening as much as they should be. We want to look at community level solutions and all kinds of ways in which we are tied together as humans and also as members of planet Earth, inhabitants of planet Earth, consciousness about wildlife and the impacts on our ecosystems. And in some cases, some of the trauma that could be associated with learning about climate change. It can be, as I say, kind of depressing if you really get into the science of it. And we really want to focus on ways to help you feel positive about it and that you can have an impact and make a difference. Next slide. So some of the things we're going to talk about, and I already touched on this, it's interesting to recognize how some of the research that comes out of our own UC Riverside really plays into this. Those of you in the California Naturalist class are already aware probably of a lot of the work that's been done at UCR with respect to our desert ecosystems. And this reflects the significance of deserts in terms of sequestering or harboring carbon dioxide in the soil. Desert plants have very deep roots, and that results in buried carbon that actually keeps carbon dioxide where we'd rather have it, underground and instead of up into the atmosphere. These are some images of some of the equipment that scientists from UC Riverside have used locally to basically go down underground and look at the roots of plants and identify what's going on. That research was initiated by Dr. Mike Allen, who's an emeritus professor from UC Riverside. And actually it resulted in a recognition by the state of California that deserts account for about 10% of the sequestration or the storage of carbon in the soil. And it certainly, from the standpoint of protecting our local ecosystems, emphasizes the importance of protecting these natural areas and public lands so that we can maintain that reservoir of carbon in this, as I say, underground, where it's much safer in terms of its impact to our climate. Next slide. Yeah, we're going to be talking about a lot of different things and some of the ways that we as individuals can make a difference. Gardening for pollinators and the use of native plants will be a feature of our discussions, and we'll talk about this. One of the requirements is a stewardship project, and many students choose to focus on issues related to using native plants or encouraging pollinators in your own landscape, in your own garden. Next slide. These are just some examples of the kinds of conversations, everything from actually desert plants, but in a very structured landscape, different kinds of landscapes where native plants become not just beautiful to the resident, but also provide resources for pollinators and a lot of habitat for wildlife. As much as we can contribute and add more places for pollinators, habitat for wildlife, that's all to the good. Next slide. We're also going to spend some time talking about food. As you might be aware, of course, we unfortunately waste about 40% of, as a nation, as a collective, the food resources. But we want to spend some time about diet. Diet in terms of climate issues is a very important factor. We are learning the importance of plant-based food and diet that really has a much more positive impact on our climate than does other different food resources. So we're going to delve into that topic. And we'll spend some time. And there are some of the units in the study modules that will also reflect on that. So that's one of our topics to explore. And we really welcome any suggestions that folks might have if you decide to take the course about, sort of resources there as well. Next slide. This is just an example. As part of the class, we're going to go over the schedule briefly in a minute or two in the next slide. But one of the things that we have done here is because it is an online course, which gives the opportunity to cut your carbon emissions by not having to drive. We do spend a lot of time in class sessions where we're online, trying to provide opportunities through discussion and breakout groups for you to build community. But we can best do that in person. So we will be having 3 field trips. These will be Saturday field trips scattered throughout the course, pretty much take most of the day. We'll meet at a location and usually kind of carpool around. These are some images from some of the trips we have taken and will be taking. Again, we do a really fascinating, kind of, to me, kind of amazing and also, not some parts of it, not the most charming. We visit a wastewater treatment plant in Palm Springs. We have been doing some agricultural visit, organic farm down at Templepaw Farms. We've gone to see some composting demonstrations, hear from some of the researchers at University of California who are looking at more sustainable agricultural practices. We anticipate a whole series of different field trips. So on one Saturday, we would have a field trip where we'd be stopping in a number of different locations. We anticipate one field trip going up to Joshua Tree National Park to look at some of the restoration and work they're doing there. So we will have some really great field trips that will give you a chance to meet each other in person and also learn a lot about what's going on in our local communities to address climate issues. Next slide, please. So this gives you kind of an overview. We'll talk a little bit here about the course components. It is what's referred to as asynchronous and synchronous. We will have the online portion, which will be the regular class meetings, and then the 3 Saturday field trips. And we will also have a graduation, which we'll hopefully be able to do in person. We'll more about that once we get the class underway. It's about 50% of the course material is in modules and what's called the Canvas Learning Management System. This is actually a really nice program. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's used by a lot of colleges and other educational sectors to essentially provide online content. It is really nice because it encourages a lot of interaction, and like you would read discussions or writings of your fellow students. We will have the field trips, as I mentioned. There is a requirement for a stewardship project, which we'll talk about, and community science projects, and there's also a textbook. It's very much a service-oriented course, as we've talked about. We really want to have this be an active sort of hands-on learning experience for you. There are the course content in the Canvas modules does cover issues like fires and issues throughout the state of California. We really try to refine and tailor the course locally to focus on some of the things that are going on in our desert communities. Next slide, please. Course components, again, would be these online modules, which you would do on your own with help. And we will be having, it's not mentioned in what I've said so far, but in addition to the Saturday meetings and field trips, we're going to have Wednesday evening sessions where if you have questions about the modules or anything that's going on in the course, or we want to have a chance for people to have a discussion, we'll have an optional Wednesday evening sessions, probably from like 6 o'clock to 7 or some convenient time where folks could sign on if you need questions or help. We want to, should you decide to take the course, we want to absolutely support you. Some folks kind of say, well, I'm not ready to go back to college. But these modules are really great. They've got a lot of really great information, and there's some deep dives that give you the chance to further explore particular topics that are interesting to you. And we will be supporting you in that and helping you learn to use the Canvas module, and also throughout the course. And like I said, if you have questions, need help, anything that's there. Those are in order to earn the Climate Steward certificate. That is one of the course requirements, is to complete the Canvas modules, and we're flexible with that in terms of working with you. Like I say, helping you if you need it and making sure that that's comfortable. Next slide. So this is the course materials. Complete the Canvas learning modules, which will be tying into our weekly sessions, meetings. Complete a stewardship project, attend all the course sessions, including the class and the field trips. We will have some opportunities if you have a conflict or a personal situation or whatever it might be. We will have some opportunities for you to make up a class meeting or a field trip, but we don't want you to miss a lot, because each session is really important, and we don't, it goes by quickly. Participate in a community science project, which we'll be doing. That'll be something that we can all work on together. And then there is a textbook, which is included in your registration, Climate Stewardship, Taking Collective Action to Protect California. So if you sign up for the course, you'll receive a copy of that textbook. Next slide, please. So here's just an outline of our schedule. We're going to start on September 26th. The class meetings on Saturdays will be from 9 to noon on Zoom, just like this. It'll be very informal. If you need to have your cup of coffee or whatever, that's no problem. We'll take breaks during the sessions. For most of the class meetings, online class meetings, we'll have guest lecturers. We have people with expertise, local business, renewable energy experts, a lot of different really good lectures that will be presented by mostly local, sometimes not local, but guest lecturers. The field trips I've mentioned already. We'll have a field trip on the 3rd of October. We do actually have 3 dates when we will not be meeting. The first of those will be the 10th of October, Saturday. The UC Agricultural Natural Resources Environmental Stewards is having a statewide conference in Santa Barbara. And that's something that's actually open to anybody who's taken either California Naturalist or Climate Stewards. But a number of us will be attending that conference, so we won't be meeting on that day. Their next online class, we're going to be talking, like I said, about sort of the science of climate change, a local expert on renewable energy. Our second field trip will be more in the East Valley, some of the agricultural areas, organic farms, a traditional farm, a really, really interesting field trip. It's just amazing on both scores to see what's happening in our valley with organic farms and some of the ways in which traditional farms are trying to be more sustainable. So we have more classes on the 31st and the 7th. These will be online Saturday mornings with, in all cases, besides having like a lecture or presentation, we really focus a lot on giving you a chance to interact and discuss topics. So we'll have a lot of breakout sessions where you might be talking about, like what's going on in your neighborhood or how you see your city handling climate issues. So we really want to make sure that we're giving lots of opportunity for you to interact and discuss issues. Let's see. So we've got those online trips, and then another no class day is November 14th. This is the day for the annual Desert Community Garden Day, which is hosted by the Desert Horticultural Society. And also on that same day, a desert native plant sale, which is hosted by the California Native Plant Society, and I happen to be the organizer of that plant sale. So we were just going to encourage everyone on the Desert Community Garden Day to attend that event. It's going to be held at the Unitarian Universalist Church at their Sacred Grounds Native Plant Garden in Rancho Mirage. It's a really great opportunity to learn about a lot of the environmental organizations that are here in the Coachella Valley. There's lectures, there's plant sales, there's vendors selling garden-related things. So we would encourage you to attend, and that might be an opportunity where you'd be able to make up some time if you had to miss. Our third field trip, we're anticipating going up to the high desert with a number of stops looking at some of the things that are going on up there. And again, we will not have a meeting during the Thanksgiving week on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So you'll have a chance to get a little break in between the Saturday meetings. And then our final two meetings will be the presentation by you and all of the students who are signed up in the class of their stewardship projects. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Next slide, please. Oh, I should mention again, in between the Saturdays, we will have those Wednesday evening sessions, which are optional, but it would be an opportunity, kind of like an office hours, if you needed help, had questions, wanted to talk about your stewardship project, whatever. So the stewardship project is one of the more fun parts. A lot of you are already familiar with this if you've taken the California Naturalist course. This is an opportunity for you to delve into a topic that you're particularly interested in. We encourage projects that are kind of more active, like coming up with a plan for a native plant landscape, or encouraging a volunteer opportunity. We definitely encourage you to work as teams and do team projects. This will help make it a little easier for you, take the pressure off, but also look at ways that you could collaborate together with others. And we've had some really great, these projects always are just tremendous. I know the California Naturalist projects this last year were just incredible. And it's one of the more fun parts of the course. And you really want to just take a look at what you're interested in. We'll be talking about this through the course and giving you support as needed to develop your stewardship project, come up with the idea, whatever help you need if you decide to go forward with the class. Next slide, please. So as we've talked about already, a major emphasis in this class is what we're calling communities of practice, people who are really passionate and concerned and want to do something to help not just our environment and our planet, but the communities around us, some of whom are more vulnerable to the impacts of climate change as we see these increasing temperatures, more unpredictable weather. This is really a focus of this course is the communities of practice to support each other socially and emotionally as well. And one of the ways that we're fostering this, some of you who are in California Naturalists know that there's a community science collaborative and a weekly hike amongst many of the members of or past California Naturalist students. There's also a community science collaborative that meets monthly. We have the same basic idea, not quite weekly, but we do have a monthly evening on Monday evenings, the fourth Monday, for anybody who's interested, but folks who've taken climate stewards to get together and talk about things that they might be, a project they might be working on. We'll have guest lectures, different things like that. We've also taken some really interesting field trips, and we'll be doing that. So if you take the course, once the course is over, we want to encourage you to continue to work together with us as a community to encourage our cities maybe to do something more than they are doing about climate issues, providing more shade, planting trees, all kinds of different things that we could advocate for that will help to make things a little easier. Next slide, please. So We are ready to accept applications. If you're interested, we would definitely encourage you to sign up for the class. You can do that by, I think there's a link that was sent to you. If you go to the CactusToCloud page. But the class is basically running for 12 weeks, starting September 26th through December 12th. December 12th would be the last day of presentations on the stewardship projects and a fun graduation. The 3 Saturday field trips also. It includes a textbook, and we do have the potential for scholarships and payment plans, and also college credits for an additional fee. If you go to the registration, you'll see that it asks you questions about if you're interested in any of those options. We want to encourage folks to take the course, and we'll work with you to make that work for you if there's whatever schedule issues or whatever you might want to consider. And yeah, as soon as we're done with the screen share, Colin will post the link for the registration. So with that, I think that's our last slide. We got one more slide. Yeah, you can also go to the CactusToCloud website, and the application information, as well as more information about the course, can be found on the website as well. So I think with that, we love to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, let's see. I'm gonna grab that link and post it in the chat. And while folks are thinking about questions, I'll just kind of add a few things that kind of came up for me or that I think about as far as the class. One is that especially, having been involved in the class since the beginning, there's often, well, not often, there are a couple of kind of reactions that I hear from folks about the class. And I think, we've been trying to communicate as much as we can sort of what the differences are from CalNat, because it's a um, very recommended and good thing for folks to like take California Naturalist and then go right into Climate Stewards, or, as soon as it works with their schedules, to go into Climate Stewards. And a lot of folks will find it really rewarding. Some folks find there's a little bit of like a shock in the difference between the two courses. California Naturalist is really like a field course. It's field focused. So we have lectures, but we try to get out as much as possible. And we have been trying to get, in terms of that co-design process, one of the things that we've done with the statewide version of Climate Stewards is to be able to have more field trips and get more time outdoors and or even indoors, but away from the office. Um, but it is a lot more time, sitting at your desk than California Naturalist, and so that's an adjustment. And also, um, maybe the time is not, or the time requirement is meant to be the same, but you and they're not like tests or exams, but because you're doing actual content through the Canvas modules, it feels a little bit more like like a real college course. Sometimes the California Naturalist feels like it's a fun class, um, and Climate Stewards feels a little bit more like a class.
It's
Um,
fun too.
it is fun too, right? But so we try to minimize that as much as possible. But if you especially had comments from folks who like retired, maybe hadn't taken a college class in a long time, or hadn't even worked at a 9 to 5 kind of job in a long time, it was sort of like an adjustment to get into that kind of regular weekly accomplishing some task in Canvas. So we try to be very flexible with that. There's no set time. You don't necessarily even have to finish the modules by the end of the class meetings to receive your certification. But that's why we set up those Wednesday kind of office hours, so that you've got some time built in to be able to participate with us. And even if you just want to sit on Zoom and do your modules while the rest of us are chatting, or if that helps you, that kind of opportunity is there. So, again, the course schedule and the way we design the course is meant to be as helpful to you to be able to finish the course and get as much out of the course as possible, because there is that kind of adjustment. We also do get rare, but have had some folks who kind of like signed up for the course thinking they were going to get this deep dive into climate science and CO2 concentrations and ocean currents and all that kind of stuff. And we talk about all that kind of stuff, but it really that's like one lecture or one or two lectures out of the long course that we'll be taking. And so if you're into that, that's wonderful, but that's not this course. I mean, this course is really more about talking to people, building community and all that kind of stuff. So just be aware of that. Um, I think we try to have made that pretty clear based on, some past experience, but just be aware of that. And then the last thing I want to mention is about the scholarships and kind of the cost for the course. I really want to emphasize that there is a cost for the course. It costs us money to offer this, and we work as hard as we can to make that cost as little as possible. It's sort of the full cost, $350. It's actually less than what UCR Palm Desert used to charge for the course. So, feel really good about that. Um, but if that's a barrier to you, we want to work with you. We've got payment plans and scholarships available, and I really want to encourage folks to not be scared off by the cost because even for California Naturalists last year, I talked with some folks who were really excited about the class, but seemed to be kind of turned off by the cost. And we had money left over in scholarships to offer them. We could have offered them a full ride if they had applied, but they did, because they were worried about the cost, they didn't apply, and we can't do anything with that. So I really encourage folks, if you're interested in the course, if you want to do it, apply, and we'll work with you on the cost. I can't guarantee everybody, but at least from past experience from last year, we didn't use all of the money we thought we were going to for scholarships. So please apply, and then I'll think if there's anything else I want to say. But go ahead and raise your hands or type questions in the chat or wave at the screen or whatever, and we'll try and answer any questions you may have um, from here.
So we start with Yvette and then Donald. Yvette, go ahead.
Thank you. First, I just want to say that I took the California Naturalist course on the cohort of 2024, and I think it's such a wonderful program to be aware of our, community, and it's very empowering. And I think, everybody in the Coachella Valley should take the California Naturalist course and the Climate Steward. I'm not getting paid for any advertisement, but I really believe that it's such a well-structured lecture or course, and is definitely setting the tools for us as community members to do something about our local climate. With that being said, my question is, how I've been trying to have a field trip to a Vertec facility where we can see the process of the composting part of it, since that's my focus mainly. And I've been trying to, organize something like that. I would really like to see that, or if you can provide tools for that. That's my question. Thank you.
That's great, Yvette. Actually, we definitely are working on getting a tour, some kind of visit with Vertec, so we can see composting and what is it that happens. I know a lot of us have questions about all the food waste that we're recycling and passing off when they pick up our trash. So we're working on it. Hopefully we'll be able to schedule a Vertec presentation or a field trip or something. So as a topic I know there'd be a lot of interest in. So thanks for that.
Thank you.
Donald, you're next. Donald, you're on mute.
Oh, yeah.
There we got you.
My wife and I are generally one of those snowbird types, and we live in the valley from roughly the 1st of November till the end of May, typically. In this course, I see 2 of those field trips I would miss if we did that.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be possible to satisfy course requirements if I missed those field trips? Could I make those up somehow?
Yeah. One of the things we've done with other students, Donald, is to have you do your own field trip, maybe at some location in your place where you are in November or before you come to the desert. I think we could work something out for you
Okay.
there. I think there could be some different options. I know in the past, we've had students like they did their own field trip at some location because
Somewhere
we
in,
had people who don't live in the Coachella Valley at all, and we want to
okay.
encourage
Well,
that.
I'd love to go to
So,
those field trips, even separately on my own, whatever, but
yeah,
in Coachella Valley. But so maybe
yeah,
that's
for
an
sure.
option.
And we could also, at least a number of them, there might be a few that you might not be able to do on your own totally. But the
Yeah.
other thing we'll be doing is more field trips through our ongoing Climate Steward, what we call a meetup, that would be happening alongside of the course. So there might be a field trip that you could do there that would substitute as well. So
Okay. Thank you.
yeah, we'll work with you on that.
I really, really love the concept of this local resilience activity as
Mhm.
a response to the fact that so many people feel it's important but don't know what they can do. So
Yeah, you're right.
I applaud that work.
Great. Yeah, well, we'll definitely work with you on the field trip.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Anybody else?
just to reiterate, while other folks are thinking about questions, that's one of, if you're again coming from CalNat, that's kind of one of the differences. For CalNat, we're more of a stickler when it comes to attendance and like being there for every thing. But because again, this class was born during the pandemic when nobody could be anywhere together, we really try to be more flexible. And we've had folks join the class from LA, from outside of the Coachella Valley entirely, and that's great. That I think that other perspectives coming in are good, and we want to work with you. So we'll figure something out, I think, for most things. I mean, it's kind of up to you how much of the class you feel like is worth it for you to be there for, um, and go from there. And then I had thought of something for Yvette's question too, but
Well, and I'll go ahead
maybe
and Liv had
I
her
saw
hand up.
I saw Liv raise her hand though, so maybe she's got a question or they have a
Yeah, go ahead, Liv.
Hi, I'm Liv. I actually am currently a conservation assistant at the Oswald Land Trust. Katie, I know that you're on the board. I don't know
Oh,
if we've
hi,
been
Liv.
formally introduced yet, but I'm sure that we'll interact a lot, both in this course and probably in the future for work. But I'm also currently enrolled at College of the Desert. I'm doing an environmental science program to transfer hopefully to UC Riverside at a certain point. So I guess my question is for the potential college credits, is that something that transfers to College of the Desert, or it's something that'll be available to be transferred to the UC system, like if I do end up going there for my bachelor's?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I can provide more information if you send me an email, and follow up, but the course credits that everybody can take the course, everybody who gets certified is eligible for college credit. And the credits are offered through UC Davis Extension. So it's kind of like you have to do your own um, process where you sign up with UC Davis Extension and basically register for this class, and then they check that we are certified and you get the course credits. And there's an administrative fee for that, just to be aware of that. But they're UC Davis credits, so you can transfer those credits anywhere that you can transfer UC Davis credits.
Okay. Good question. Other questions? Great. Well, we didn't have anything else for you. Don't want to take up too much of your Saturday. If you do have any specific questions, I think you all have Colin's email. You can contact him directly. There is, like I say, more information on the CactusToCloud website. We will be having another information session on Wednesday, August 19th. If you know anybody else who's interested in the course or might be interested, feel free to put the word out to them, or if you think of a question, certainly if you have a question, you can contact us at any time and we'll get back to you. We'd love to see you all join the class. We're really excited about having it happen again this year. I think we've got some we've got some great speakers, and the field trips are really wonderful. So if anybody wants to stick around, if you have a question you'd rather ask, not with the rest of the group, you're welcome to do that. But if there's no other questions, we thank you for your time this morning. Hopefully we'll see you in September. online. And like I say, with any of the sort of specific issues, we'll definitely work with you to try to make it work for your individual schedule and needs and so on. So thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Have a
Thank
good
you.
rest of the day.
Have a good weekend, everybody.